This episode of the What's Happening Delco podcast is brought to you by Delco Meets for Business. Check us out on Meetup, register, and attend one of our fantastic networking meetings, which we meet on the first and third Thursday at the Brick House in Ridley Park, and the second and fourth Thursday at the Upper Crust in Newtown Square. We look forward to seeing you there. What's happening, Delco? I'm Rich Shane, and welcome to the What's Happening Delco podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt Bucurel of Perjangers and Wallhangers. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is going to be mine and the listener when they learn more about what you do. What is Perjangers and Wallhangers?
So we're a production company, and we started out 6 years ago with a podcast that my business partner and I did. It was called Matt Man and the Old Man's Car Ride. And it started with a car ride. And then since then, haven't stopped podcasting. I started podcasting with just having my friends over in my living room, and we just got together talking about all the latest in pop culture and nerd and geekdom. And, you know, he created a word, Perjangers, because it wasn't. You Google Perjangers and it's us. Like, we're the only thing. So it's smart marketing. But through podcasting, we actually were able to define what a Perjanger is with my friends. And a Perjanger is a person or group who love or infatuated with nerd and geek culture. And the best thing about that is that you can be a nerd or geek about anything. So at the end of the day, when asking what a Perjanger is, the answer is 42, whatever you want it to be.
There's so much there, Matt. Yeah. And understanding what a Perjanger is, I guess I'm either a Perjanger or I'm interested in Perjangerism. See, now I added to your word.
I can.
As you have a plethora of podcasts. Yeah. And how do you work with the Delco community? Are you looking for people to come to you for production of podcasts, guests? Are you looking to highlight their stories? Where do you fit into the Delco community with Perjangers and Wallhangers?
The answer would be yes. Because we've gone live at businesses like Comic Universe was one of the first places we went live to highlight them. And that was back with the original owner, Frank Link. We are friends with the current owner. And it's one of those things of I love going out to businesses. I did a commercial for Atlantic All-Star Wrestling for their sponsor, Tanglewood, over in Folsom. So being able to go out there, use my videography talents and photography talents to help highlight Delco is one of the things that really started getting a passion for recently, because I started off this year thinking like, oh my God, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I had a podcast with Mark McKenna, comic book legend, absolute amazing guy, great to talk to. And I think, wow, man, this is great. How do I top this? Well, I got fired from my day job, and I stumbled onto photography. I was always big into cameras and shooting pictures and capturing moments. So my new friend that I've known for maybe 3 months now, Jill, she said, why don't you make a book? I don't know. Why don't I? So I went out to York and also to media one day. I shot a bunch of pictures and I edited them on Canva. I put together my book. I put it up on Amazon. It's available for everybody. Picture Perfect Small Towns, York and Media, PA. And I started shooting another book, Picture Perfect Small Towns, Maryland. And I thought, why am I going everywhere else besides my home county? So I made it a point to where the first book I did was paperback. And most bookstores, even in the area, they want Ingram. It has to be on Ingram. Hey, is your book on Ingram? All right, let me know what it is. And that's the end of the story. So I know I needed another book that I could do relatively quickly. And that's when I thought Picture Perfect Small Towns, Delco. Volume 1 is going to be at Swarthmore and Widener bookstores, as well as others that I'm sure that are going to be jumping at the chance to have the start hardcover of the series, Volume 1. Already planning on, I have paperwork in the works over at Elwyn to get those guys. And I want to go through and show and highlight the hidden gems of Delco. One of them that I did for this book that I didn't even know was there, but it's under the Blue Route. Smedley Leaper Park, or Smedley Leaper Trail, rather. And it goes right along the Blue Route. And you're like, oh, man, look at them in traffic. It's great. And then there's this place off to the side of the trail. It's called the Italian Water Garden. And I found it on Google. And I was like, okay, trail, awesome. Because I was surprised how many parks and trails and amazing places that we do have in Delco that really highlight it, make it beautiful. So I went to Smedley Lipper Trail. The Italian Water Gardens was cool because it used to be all brick, nice fountain right there. But now nature has retaken everything. And if you go now, there's ivy and a lot of plant growth all over. And it really created this almost like a portal into Narnia kind of feel right here in Delco. I'm like, all right, Scott Arboretum right over there in Swarthmore, Parkside alone. Being able to stop and highlight and look at the beauty that we do have in Delco is one of the things that on a beautiful day, oh man, that's beautiful. And you go about your day, but especially what I learned from one of the first, well, not one of the first person to buy my book was after the Daily Times did an article on me last week. My neighbor is right back there. She saw it online. She contacted me and she was like, I want to buy your book right now. I don't want to wait for a bookstore. Okay. Getting it shipped to me, sending it right over to her. And the thing that really fascinated me about this story is it wasn't for her. It was for her brother. Brother was a Marine. And he beat his body up from rappelling down. And he can't take the winters up here anymore. So why not give him a dose of home? Hey, remember your home? I'm going to make a whole volume of books so that whether you're here in Delco or you're a transplant, you can still have pictures of home that you can take with you. And that's something that I think is also adding to the sentimentality of it. There's such a strong following from people in Delco. It's almost like a cult, almost. So that's why I really wanted to focus my photography wise on capturing this county, because there's no other place like it. It's very much a hidden gem. That's also why I started with my hometown, Parkside, of 6 blocks. That's all you have, but there's a lot here. It's one of the most, I remember it, you can go to places. I grew up here, and by the time I'm in my middle age, it's completely changed. Not Parkside. It's actually gotten better. And that's one of the things I find about Delco in general. I look at Brookhaven, how they finally fixed the roads and they're adding stuff and they're adding, hey, here's a park. Here's somewhere where you can just have fun with your kids. There's a lot of different places that people in Delco may not actually know are there. So that's also one of the places and the reasons I want to highlight it is so that you can see, wow, where is that? Hang on, media? Oh, wow, we got to go here. Giving everybody the excuse to take a day trip to Delco.
I get a sense hidden gems excite you. And from your mindset, the way you think, when you're behind the camera, you're giving us Matt's perspective of Delco, and it's resonating with people. It's interesting for people. It's exciting. I'm now going to try to find this Italian fountain garden place off a trail that I didn't even know about. And there's a lot of things, I think, during the day that you're bringing to the front of what we see. Hey, slow down. There are things in your world that you're just missing that in itself, when you see it, you're going to go, I had no idea that was there. And I pass that all the time.
Yeah. And that was the thing. It's like when I'm choosing what I put in a book, it's usually that. And, I've written before. I was a director in an animated web series called Tales of the Morgue, Unfortunate Deaths and Unfortunate Ways. I wrote the second episode on, Until Death. And, when you're writing, I also wrote a comic, a side story for Frank Percy, his comic. When you're writing, there's a term that all writers know, and a lot of people know, the muse. That's the only way I can really attribute out to where, it's my perspective, but I'm walking along and the muse just starts talking to me like, That's a beautiful picture. That's a beautiful picture. And trying to capture all of that is really, yeah, you're giving them your perspective, but if you're honest about it and what you're trying to do, even any way creatively, it's going to resonate with people because you're not coming out of a place to where, I'm doing this for money. That's why I just want the greenbacks. I want to highlight Delco. I want everybody to know how great this county is. And that's one of the best things, because one of the very first core thing that we built our company around is that we build each other up. A rising tide lifts all ships. If I'm better because you're helping me and you show me to this person, that's how I've met all these amazing people through Tales of the Hunted. It's how I met, Aleem Legit. I had no idea there was an amazing comic book artist in Chester with 2 comics out. I'm glad to say that he's one of my best friends now. And I just met him last year. And he said a couple things to me. And the one that immediately ties in with what I'm saying is a lot of people talk about building other people up. And I said, yeah. He said, no, you guys actually do it. I'm out here on a podcast trying to get people to look at the stuff I'm doing, but I also want them to see all my amazing friends, because there is no way, I'm very confident there's no way I would be here right now talking to you if I didn't have such amazing friends standing right behind me.
You've got this blank canvas now, and you found this medium of creating art on this blank canvas. Most people would say, well, I'll go into Philadelphia because there's got to be all this hidden stuff. There's got to be all this secret stuff. You know what? You went and did some work in Maryland, and I'm sure there's some wonderful finds that you found there. You chose to build and start from inward, from the inside of the bullseye where you are. And it sounds like you're still, like, you can spend the rest of your life probably in Delco, but I'm certain you have other aspirations or places that you're curious about to take your focus, your perspective, and show the world. And then you'll have other people in those communities and say, I didn't know. Is that a ripple out plan for you, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I'm never satisfied with the amount of knowledge I have in my head. I try to learn something and expand what I know every single day, whether it be something about how they think the Egyptians were using hydraulics in some way to build the pyramids. Well, that makes sense. They were horrible sailors, but they knew how to navigate the Nile. They knew how to make the Nile help them and use that. So now I know, oh, wow, now I know that fact. Now I always listen to Audible books, because my brother works for Elwyn and he has a massive line of audio books. So I'll pop on, Dostoevsky. I'll pop on, the history of ancient Egypt or mythology and stuff like that, because it gives you, especially mythology, it kind of gives you a window into the people who our ancestors used to be. And when you look at these stories, they're still not that far off from us. Human beings are still the same in very many ways. We've just upgraded in certain aspects.
This is like a 2-part question. A, have you always been, or would you characterize yourself as a lifelong learner? And the other side of that is, have you always been curious?
Yes. I do consider myself a lifelong learner, because staying curious and being able to get excited are 2 of the things that'll keep you young at heart, because that's the feeling of, I don't know everything. The more I learn, just like Socrates says, the more I learn, I know nothing at all. So there's that excitement and always staying curious. Well, how does this work? How did I do this? That's also to where I have to be curious, right? With editing. And how do I make this happen? Well, nobody's going to do it for me. I have to learn. I have to continue to better my craft. And I was always curious and interested in learning. I was a horrible student. Horrible student. I passed high school by the skin of my teeth. So, but on the opposite side of that, I had amazing teachers in the arts, like Brenda Moran in Oxford Area High School with her graphic design department. I wouldn't have been doing anything that I do today without amazing teachers like her showing me, hey, you can do this creative thing. And you know what? You're really good at it. You know, it's one of those things to where you look back, especially after you get fired from a job that you hated for so long. And you're like, why didn't I do that? So why not now? That's what I thought, because I'm always curious. I'm always going to be out there looking to find things I don't know and get excited about it. You know, one of the worst things is seeing a person who's just beat down in life and you tell them something exciting and they go, cool. That's it? Yeah. What do you want? Get excited. Move the blood. It's one of the keys I feel of life is just staying curious and getting excited.
Part of what we do here for What's Happening Delco and the podcast is it's not always about business. It's not always, as you characterize, it's not always about making the greenbacks. It's the humans that live amongst us that we pass every day. Matt, you and I could have passed. You could have been holding the door for me at Wawa. I don't know. I could have been, yelling at you because you took my parking spot 3 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
But there are so many fascinating stories. You talk about highlighting the objects, the scenery, the buildings, the history. But there's a human element that's attached to it. And I'm curious. I mean, you talk about the Swarthmore, the Scott Arboretum, Scott Paper Company. And once you learn about those people that have created so much of the basis for what we pass every day, you're a curious guy. Do you go into that? Is that something that you tell the story through your lens and bring about in your books?
Well, each picture is essentially like a story, right? Because it says 1,000 words, but the story isn't in concrete because, like you said, it is my perspective, but it's the readers, I'll use that, term loosely, but it's the readers on interpreting it, because everyone looking at that picture is going to be looking at different things. You're going to be looking at, oh my gosh, this is an amazing flower. Some people are going to be looking at the architecture of the buildings, especially media, such a picturesque town, and with Delco, there are so many places like that I think say their own story. It just takes a person highlighting them to show you, like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing town.
How do people find you? How do people find these books? How do they learn more about what you do, Matt?
PJandDWH.com. That's where you can find all the Perjangers and Wallhangers content. I put it up there as soon as I have it out. And we're also on YouTube as well, but you can just go to the website. It's a YouTube embedded link. So all the greatness is up there and you can follow the train down the line. I have everything in playlists. So as soon as you hop onto the YouTube, literally just typing in Perjangers will get you there too. That's where all the content will keep going. I have we're starting back up the Hit Points and Half Measures Dungeons and Dragons podcast. We're going to have a really long in-person session, and it's going to be in September. So I'm going to be starting to release that probably end of September, probably October, November. So there's a lot of content coming there to where, we have a docuseries at Perjangers and Wallhangers that we're releasing. It's a life of an indie pro wrestler. And the first person that we are going to do is a very, very amazing wrestler. His name is Tony Yolanda, and he's actually doing a lot of work with the WWC Puerto Rico, which is, that level under that main wrestling stuff that everybody watches, TNA, Impact, WWE. That's the stuff that everybody dreams towards. What is the life like an indie pro wrestler? So that's also like highlighting the people that are around us. That's one of the things that there are so many amazing people in Delco as well. And, you know, I didn't know I would know so many comic book artists that live by me. You know, I didn't know I had all these different people and friends that would want to, you know, Delco, the movie director, Chris Domenico. I was interviewing him on Tales of the Hunted, only to find out we were in the same Cub Scout group. And he works at my alma mater, Oxford Area High School. So he works with my favorite teachers over there. It's like it's a back and forth game, you know? So that's the beauty of it. And I forgot to answer your one question. The book, my first book, Picture Perfect Small Towns, is out now on Amazon. That is a paperback book, $30, very affordable. I'd love to sign any copies people buy. And then Picture Perfect Small Towns, Delco, Volume 1. Bug your bookstores, Barnes & Noble. We're going to get them in there. We're going to get them into Widener and Swarthmore, like I mentioned. I know there's probably one other one I'm forgetting, but my friend Jill literally called every single bookstore she could find in our area and around it so that they will buy it and paper it out there. So go to your bookstores, ask them. They'll probably point you to it, or, all right, I'll get that for you.
I love it. You're out and about heading to a book signing at one of the local bookstores in Delco, and you have a cheesesteak craving. Where are you going for your cheesesteak?
Phil and Gems.
You satisfied that cheesesteak craving, and today it's pizza. Where are you stopping by for pizza?
See, that's the hard question. Because
we ask hard-hitting questions here, Matt.
Thrifty person I am, I'm stopping by Giant and picking up one of those giant pizzas and popping it in. But if I'm highlighting a business, it would be a Bruises.
Okay, a Bruises.
Brookhaven Road, which
nobody has mentioned Giant for pizza on the podcast, so thanks for bringing that to us.
It's affordable, you know what I'm saying? It's like $9. What are you paying at Pizza Hut plus delivery? That's way overpriced.
All right. You have a convenience store need. Where are you going? Wawa or Royal Farms?
Wawa. Yeah.
I am very curious because I think in a way you've touched on this a little bit. How do you describe Delco to somebody who's never been here or has not heard of Delco before?
Well, the one annoying thing they always usually say is it in Delaware? No. So that's the first one. You just kind of quash that one. Describing it is very hard because this is the kind of place that Delco is. And like I always tell people, I'm a storyteller. So it was about maybe a year into doing the podcast, going live from the living room on Facebook, leaving my house one day. And my neighbor across the street, she's walking her dog, and she goes, "Hi, Matt Man. Hi, Matt Man." I'm thinking, wow, that's very specific. She knows my nickname. I didn't think anything of it. And find out, oh, she watches the show. And then a little later on, it's like a week or so later, I'm walking my dog out back, and these two little neighbor girls, I hear him like working up the courage. You say it at the same time. "Do you have a podcast?" I'm like, wow, that's very specific. Like, yeah, that's Delco. If you're a good person, you'll love it. You'll think of it as home. You know, my friend Frank Percy, he's from New York, right over Media. Loves the town, loves the area, loves the county. Once you move here, you will fall in love with it, and you won't want to move anywhere else.
Now that you've shared all these hidden gems or some more that you're finding, you have friends or family coming in from out of town and you want to give them or take them to that Delco experience. Where are you taking them or where are you sending them?
For a truly Delco experience, that's a tough one because There's a wide range to Delco, to where I think a lot of people think of the just outside Philadelphia part, but the wild part, which I'm actually working on getting these guys in the next volume of Delco, is Chad's Ford. The Chad's Ford Winery is Delco. It's at the edge, but it's Delco. You know, hey, your mom's in town. Hey, they got the Chad's Ford Winery over there. Let's hit them before they close. You know, those small places. There's Indian Orchard Farms right over in Middletown, across from the Middletown Fire Department. They've been there since like the early 1900s. I didn't even know there was a farm over there. You know, like there's so many hidden gems like that, to where, hey, we're going to go pick stuff at the farm. And then we're going to go over here because there's this amazing Italian water garden. I want to show you this place. It's a nice place outside of town. So you'll probably have to end up tracking all over a bit, but just from the vast spans of it, you're going from Chad's Ford to Chester, all the way up past Havertown. You have so many different so many different things, to where even if it's like the Hedgerow Theater over there catching the show, you know, being able to go to the great and powerful Media Theater and, you know, and see the amazing plays and works of art they have there.
I think what's going to happen is people are going to buy the books. They're going to send them to their friends. And that's going to bring in all these people from out of the area that want to start seeing these places and checking the boxes and saying, I want to have this exposure to some things that sound so amazing. Just like me for today, I get to be exposed to somebody else we've never met other than just now. And again, you're curious, you're fascinating. We could talk all day and I get to learn. I get to learn about what's across the street, around the corner, down the road. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you being a friend of what's happening, Delco. Matt, I'm grateful for your time. I can't wait to see all these wonderful things that you bring to me now and other Delconians. So appreciate that. But before we let you go, is there anything we haven't talked about on the podcast today? Anything you want to share with the listeners to know more about you or Perjangers and Wallhangers?
So I've talked about my Perjangers and Wallhangers company a great bit. The one thing that people in Philadelphia, particularly, you know, the whole tri-state area, not just Delco, may not know, is that you have heard me before, just not this voice. Because when I was in 8th grade, my parents moved out to Chester County. We moved out to Oxford. And I go from a suburban boy to now I'm a country mouse, right? So me and my brother, we would drive down to the Concord Mall on Fridays and we would listen to MMR. So there were these people that lived down the road from us, and they were called the Stoners. It was their last name. So we'd always have this funny stoner voice until one day we called up WMMR. And that's when Philadelphia and the surrounding area heard of Chuck and Charlie Stoney. It was for about like 2-3 years. My brother and I would call up MMR. After a year, we were talking to Mark Raz. He's now over at XTU, program director, a good friend of mine now. So Raz was the afternoon DJ, and he had the 420 music marathon. We'd call up during the 420 marathon and we'd act like Chuck and Charlie Stoney. We'd have some kind of funny thing that happened. Maybe we're trying to go to Canada and we ended up in Mexico. And we were doing it for a while until Tasty Cake called MMR. Say, hey, we have this promo going for the green filling for a chance to meet Donovan McNabb. We want the Stoney boys to drive around for the bit like they're trying to find the green filling, but they keep getting it wrong. So we were called in, like we found hot dogs, pretzels, Suzy Q's. There were, and it was a fun time, but I was on MMR. I'm part of MMR history. Is one of the coolest things. There is a nerdy guy from Delco doing good, and he's been doing it for a long time.
I am so appreciative that you left us with that gem, and it gets the listener, if you're familiar with WMMR, thinking about growing up here in Delco and the memories of just listening to the radio and saying, oh, that's that guy. I remember him. He couldn't find green filling. Him and his brother did all these things. That's wacky. And right here in Delco.
Yeah.
Matt, thanks again. I'm hoping that maybe you'll be a reoccurring guest on the What's Happening Delco podcast to fill us in, because it seems like every day you accomplish something in one day that a lot of people may not do in a lifetime. So thanks for what you do, and we'll be seeing you out and about in the community.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Hey, it's Rich. Thank you so much for being a listener to the What's Happening Delco podcast. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn more about the people and businesses in our community. I've been a real estate agent for over 25 years, working with first-time home buyers to last-time home sellers. As a listener of the podcast, my gift to you is a complimentary 1-year American Home Shield home warranty. This is for buyers and sellers that I help. If you're looking to move anywhere in the United States, I have you covered with an amazing network of real estate agents. I look forward to hearing from you. My direct line is 215-313-3777, or you can email me at rshaneremax@comcast.net. Oh, by the way, I am never too busy for any of your referrals.